Hello and welcome back to the DoneDeal YouTube channel, and today we're reviewing the 4th generation Ford Focus. However, this is actually the facelifted version, so it's kind of like the Mark 4.5, and I have to say it looks really good. And in this review we're going to be talking about the changes between this and its predecessor, of course what it's like to drive, and also the future of the Focus, because Ford has discontinued the much loved Mondeo, the even more loved Fiesta. So is the end in sight for the Focus? We'll find out later in the review. But in terms of prices, in Ireland these start at about €32,000. Now, if you want to, you can get it in an estate form, and depending on what spec you go for, it costs about €2,000 to go from hatchback to estate across the lineup. Anyway, this is the DoneDeal YouTube channel. I'm David OC. Let's get into the review. In terms of specs, this is actually kind of where it looks complicated when you first go on Ford Ireland's website. However, when you break it down, it's pretty easy. There is Titanium, Titanium X, Active, Active X, ST, and STX. So basically, this right here, we've got the ST line X, which is about €7,000 depending on what options you spec on it. However, the Titanium, the Active and the ST line are all to do with the different shapes of the bumpers and the different styling, and then the X is to do with the spec that they're given with it. So X, generally speaking, is the higher up spec. However, that said, they come pretty well spec'd from standard. You'll get your Apple CarPlay and your Android Auto wirelessly. All that comes as standard on any entry version. But it's up to you whether you prefer something like an ST that's a bit sportier, and we'll be talking about that when we go to drive because the suspension's a little bit different, or if you prefer something maybe a little bit more outdoorsy like the Active, that's down to you. In terms of boot space, well, this is weirdly exciting, okay? Stay with me, stay with me. So in terms of size, it's 375 litres. To put that in perspective, something like a Volkswagen Golf is about 380 litres. Now, the Peugeot 308 and the Astra, they're actually bigger than both of these, but it is very well thought out. It's nice and square shaped. There's not too much of a load lip. There's some tie down points. There's actually a little ski hatch there where it gets really good. Thank you, Ford, for this. There is a spare wheel. Very rarely do we see them nowadays, and it just means you can go down the country and not worry about getting a puncture because you can change the tyre on the side of a road. Now, on the interior, to be completely honest, it's quite a dark place in here. Could definitely benefit from a panoramic sunroof, but there's actually really good knee room, really good headspace. Probably not as much as something like a Golf, but it's still pretty decent. And again, Ford being Ford have thought things through. So I like that this is netted, because if you've young kids and they maybe throw stuff down there, it can almost go in there and just be forgotten about. And if a kid puts a banana in there, it will stink in 2 or 3 weeks' time, where now you'll always see it. Another thing that Ford have thought about, USB and USB-C charging points. So they're both catering for the now and the future, which is really handy. And then here there is a drink holder. Actually, there's 2 of them. And of course, last but not least, i6 points. And just look how accessible those are. There's no plastic covers, there's no messing around. They're just easy access, which is absolutely brilliant. Now, the place where all the magic happens. And actually, this is quite an important place, because obviously, A, you're going to be consuming all your miles here, but also when you look across some of the competitors, it gets really interesting. The Peugeot 308 is gorgeous inside, and then the Opel Astra, again, really good interior. However, when you compare it to something like the Golf, a lot of people are saying they missed the mark a little bit there for the new Mark 8. But anyway, to start, you basically hit this push start there, and that turns on your 2 big screens. This is a 13-inch screen, and it is absolutely brilliant. In fact, probably one of the best on the markets right now. It has a little bit of the Ford Mustang Mach-E in it. You can see they've definitely taken probably some software, but also some inspiration. Apple CarPlay just connects up wirelessly. It works seamlessly. One thing I do want to talk about is the climate control is here in the screen. And now ordinarily, if you talk about any of the Volkswagen Group cars, everyone rants and raves about how terrible it is. It's really hard to use at night, it doesn't work. I've actually found this surprisingly easy. So all your shortcuts are there, and for example, if you want to click your temperature, it opens up almost a different tab, which just makes life so much easier. And then there is a quick little volume knob down here, which just means quickly if something's going on, you can just put that down really easily. In terms of the seat, this being the ST Line X, has some gorgeous leather seats. They're really, really comfortable. These ones are fully electric too, and it's just a nice place to be. Great lumbar support too for anyone with a bad back. And then in front of you here, you do have a nice big digital display. It's not that kind of comprehensive compared to something that you might see in a Golf. It's a little bit more limited on what you have, but you have everything you need. And again, it's really user friendly. And then you've also got a screen up here, which means you just don't have to take your eyes off the road too much to see what speed you're going, or even to see what speed limit it is, as it's got speed sign recognition, which is just brilliant. So as a whole, it's a lovely place to sit. Now, on a day like today, the highlight without fail is the heated steering wheel. I can't explain how good it is. So I want to go for a drive, but before we do, we'll quickly pop up to the front and discuss engines. Under the bonnet, things get a little bit interesting. So this car that we have here has got a 1 litre 3-cylinder petrol engine, and actually it's pretty decent. In terms of power, it's got 125 PS, which I think translates to about 123 brake horsepower. And around town, it's very torquey, particularly in first and second gear, and it's also pretty economical. However, once you get it out onto the open road, at higher speeds, it doesn't really have the acceleration that you could feel very safe doing an overtake, let's say. Now, this engine is available with a 6-speed manual, which this car has, and also a 7-speed automatic gearbox, which could be really good, particularly now as we're seeing so many people shift from manual to automatic. When you go automatic, it becomes a mild hybrid. Now, don't let that scare you or entice you too much. It's pretty unnoticeable when you drive a mild hybrid, but it is just something to bear in mind. Unfortunately, that's kind of the only engine you can get. There was a 1.5 diesel, however, I've taken a note from Ford's website that says all diesel entities are currently unavailable for now, and that is due to supply constraints. So you can't get a diesel, you can only get this 1 litre petrol, and I think that holds it back a bit. No plug-in hybrid, which we're seeing in the Golf, in the Opel Astra, in the Peugeot 308, and across the line, but here it's just a 1 litre, and that is a little bit of a shame. However, it's really cold out here. I would like to put that heated steering wheel on, the heated seats. So let's go for a little bit of a drive. If I can open this or close this correctly. So to drive the new Ford Focus, what's it like? To be truthfully honest, quite similar to the old Ford Focus, particularly because this is just the facelift. But what I will say is modern Fords have a really good manual gearbox. Loved it in the Ford Puma, and I really, really like it in this as well. I would say the automatic might be worth driving because I think it's probably going to be better, but this is a good option if you like a manual. In terms of power, like I said before, low gears, it's pretty quick. It's actually very, very quick. It definitely feels a bit more than 120 horsepower, but then once you have it on the motorway, it feels about 75 brake horsepower because it just has very little high-end torque. When it comes to suspension, it's quite an interesting one. Because this is the ST line, this is actually ST line X, it's very sensitive. So it's got some sports tuned suspension, I think is what they call it. And it's just that little bit stiffer. I also think it's ever so slightly lower than the likes of the Active. But it is a little bit stiffer. You feel a little bit more of the bumps in the road. And also just as a whole, the handling is very, very sensitive. And that's as I drive in, I think, a fairly normal mode. I'll double check here now. But yeah, we're in normal mode. So if you put it into sport, I'm assuming it's going to tighten up a little bit. Definitely becomes a little bit more responsive, but not overly so. Actually, if you want to have a little bit of fun in this, it's a great, great car, but also it's not break your back material. As a whole, lovely to drive. And it, of course, once you get onto the motorway, has your adaptive cruise control, has emergency braking and lane assist. It's really, really good. Has everything you could really ever ask for. So there you have it, that is the facelifted Ford Focus. Now before we talk about its destiny, quick note on just some of the optional extras that you can get, and there is, depending on how you want to go about it, a few but not major amounts like you see in some of the German brands. So you can get a tow bar for about €380. If you want it to be detachable, it's about 680. You can get a dash cam built in from factory for about €370. So there's loads of little nice things like that. But that said, this one as it stands is about €37,000, and that's pretty good nowadays for a nice family hatchback. In terms of the destiny of the Focus, who knows? I think down the line, Ford are going to have to put a little bit more emphasis on EVs. I know they do have the Mustang Mach-E and it is a brilliant car, but they need to appeal to that ID3, the Cooper-born audiences. We know the Astra and the Peugeot are going to eventually go down the full EV route. So hopefully it'll happen. Maybe the Mark V Focus will have an electric motor, who knows? Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you would like to search for Ford Focuses, or any Ford for that matter, for sale in Ireland from over 1,000 trusted dealerships, then hit the link up there. That's the best way. Go and test drive it and maybe spec one to your taste and see what it comes in at for you. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. But for now, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.